Hello everybody and welcome back to X-Plane 11. My name is Micah and today we're going to be comparing the Nimbus Atlanta scenery with the ImagineSim Atlanta scenery. We'll start off with the Nimbus here and go over some general overview. Overall, it's a pretty good airport and it has some nice details and overall looks appealing. In regards to the mesh and terrain detail, the mesh looks close to how it does in real life. It's not exactly the best detail, but it is pretty good. And in some places it does look a little bit cartoonish, how it ramps up onto the plane of the airport, but I did have the runway contours off, so that might have affected it a little bit as well. In regards to the runway and taxiway and ramp detail, the detail left some to be desired if I'm honest. I'm happy with the way Mr. X has done his upgraded taxiway and runway replacement textures. I think those have been a little bit better choice, more accurate choice than what was chosen here in the Nimbus. In regards to the terminal detail, it is pretty close to real life. Having flown in and out of Atlanta quite a bit, I was pretty pleased with the way that they created terminals here in the Nimbus. Even the signs on the side, if you actually get up to the gates, are a nice touch as well. In regards to performance, with my settings, which are linked in the description down below, I was getting about 35 to 40 frames per second as I flew around the airport. Definitely not the worst. I didn't notice a huge difference between the default frames and the Nimbus frames. Maybe about 3 or 4 frames less with the Nimbus, but overall, pretty good performance. As I transitioned to the night, I did notice that all lights did come on in a nice gradual manner, except for like the terminal lights which pop on. But pretty good overall night lighting. I was pretty pleased with it. I did like the way that the terminal's lighting was with the red and blue, kind of almost like a Delta kind of feel to it, so I did like that. Now, in regards to the ease of installation, there are 2 downloads with the Nimbus. One has 3 files and one has 1 file. The only issue is there's no instructions on the installation except for how to install the plugin that was required for the Nimbus. So overall, the instruction was slightly difficult. If you don't know how to install scenery, you might have some issues with it. But since I have installed scenery before, it wasn't too big of an issue for me. With the ImagineSim Atlanta Airport, the details are nicely placed. I like how it looks overall. With the mesh and terrain detail, ImagineSim does a great job with the terrain and mesh, bringing it close to real life as X-Plane will allow without sacrificing too much in performance. I was specifically impressed with terrain detail and the photo scenery as well. The runway and taxiway ramp detail would definitely surpass the detail of the Nimbus. It looks more like it does in real life. The concrete is detailed, the runways had wear and tear on them, and even on the taxiways had a very good detail on the taxiways as well. Definitely an improvement over the Nimbus, and one of the things I did like about ImagineSim in and of itself, it definitely compared to like Mr. X's enhanced upgrades for the textures for the runway and the taxiways and ramps and so forth. So pretty impressed with that. In regards to the detail of the terminal, it does pretty well here in the ImagineSim. Now, there's definitely a difference between the ImagineSim and the Nimbus in regards to how the terminals look themselves. I think the ImagineSim gets a little bit closer to how it looks in real life, but it does miss some of the detail that the Nimbus does have, such as transparent windows and the signs at the gates. But overall, ImagineSim does a pretty well job with the terminal itself, but it does lackluster a little bit on the top-down look of the terminal in and of itself. In regards to performance, I should note that the ImagineSim had the option to show cars around the airport itself, but I didn't select it. I figured it could negatively impact performance as well as no parked aircraft, and even with that all turned off, it doesn't do too bad with performance. I average around 30 to 35 frames per second throughout the test, so a little bit more graphic intensive, and I suspect it's because there's 3D grass around the field, and I think that could have affected it a little bit as well. The night lighting in the ImagineSim is actually very well done. I was very pleased with it. They replaced the tungsten or incandescent lighting with LED lights, which is what is actually used now in Atlanta. So it's a little bit more updated than the Nimbus was. So I very much did like the lighting here in the ImagineSim. Now, installation was a little bit different with the ImagineSim. There's a executable file that you run, and as long as you run it with the admin rights, you won't have any issues with installation. Don't try to go in there and mess with it yourself. You might have some issues. There's also very detailed instructions on how to install it that come with the scenery folder itself, so be sure to check those out if you're having any difficulties, and they explain how you can do it manually and things like that, so be sure to follow those instructions as best you can. Now this is a comparison video. This is a ImagineSim Atlanta scenery versus the Nimbus scenery. Now they each have their pros and cons. Each one has things that I like, things that I don't like. Some have performance improvements and some don't. The Nimbus is definitely going to be your airport that you'll want to choose if you don't have the greatest system. You need to be a little bit more performance oriented. Nimbus is going to be the way to go. It definitely beats out the default scenery. But if you want a little bit more realistic, a little bit better airport in and of itself for graphics and so forth, ImagineSim is going to be the one that you'll want to choose there. Now, in regards to price, there is a price difference. The Nimbus is $23.95 off of the xplane.org website, the store there. And ImagineSim is $32.19. That is US dollars. It is $24.99 in British pounds, but of course, in US dollars is $32.19. So Nimbus a little bit cheaper than ImagineSim. So if you're also on the budget, you might want to be choosing that Nimbus. I think I'm going to choose the ImagineSim, and I think I'm going to stick with that one, mainly because it has a little bit more to offer, a little bit greater detail. So I'm more pleased with that one than I am with the Nimbus, and because I'm always been the sucker for the most beautiful thing instead of necessarily the most performance oriented. But yeah, so that's kind of a breakdown between the two. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Both the Nimbus and ImagineSim work with World Traffic 3. They also work with Traffic Global, so you can utilize either one. With the Nimbus, there is an extra file you have to install to work with World Traffic 3, but it is an option for you. Anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button down below and subscribe as well. And I'll see you guys next time up in the sky.